Welcome to CWS Christian Writing and Speaking. I'm your host, Jacqui Wilson, and today's guest is a pastor, an Amazon best-selling author, a life coach, consultant, and speaker who strives to help women and men live out their calling and walk in purpose by overcoming low self-esteem and low confidence. She says no one is here by accident. Each person has a unique calling and purpose. They are enough and lack nothing. Everything you need is already inside of you. You are the key that unlocks the world God ordained for you. A few of her books include Just Pray, a prayer journal for women, Empowerment Through Prayer, an affirmation and prayer journal, and In Christ We Live. Welcome to the show today, Michelle Fuqua. Michelle.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here, Miss Jacqui. I appreciate you today, and I just pray God continue to bless you and all that you're doing in the world to help people.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate this message that you are putting out to the world, really focusing in on people's low self-esteem and low confidence and reminding us who we are in Jesus Christ and God. I would love to hear the background story for this, because a lot of people don't think about self-esteem and confidence when it comes to being in the church.
Yes, well, as a female who has grown up, quote, in the church, in the South, I think when I first started going to church, what I noticed was there was a lot of men in leadership roles in the church, and then there's lots of men in other roles across society. Mm-hmm. And it plants a subliminal message in your mind that there's a place for you that you need to stay in.
Oh, wow.
And you have that, and then you go into your life and certain things happen that again tell you you're not enough. There's certain things for you to do, certain things for you not to do. And as you grow through your elementary years and your middle school years and your high school years, if you don't have someone championing you and helping to eradicate those false messages, mm-hmm. it creates a weaker version of yourself than God intended for there to be in the world, right? And we don't notice it. We can't articulate it. We just know that when we get a dream in our heart to go do something big, something happens to tear it down.
Yeah.
And after doing that so many times, and the dream still continuing to burst in your heart in the middle of the night, you then have to start questioning, if this is what God intends for me to do, why does it continue to fail? Or why do I continue to suppress it? And that's when you really have to start going back and doing the deep inner work to determine, am I crazy? Am I trying to be something for myself that God didn't intend for me to be? Do I need medication? And usually 99.99% of the time, what you will find is that those big dreams that you have in your heart, those things that you daydream about while you're sitting at the stoplight, the life that you see that is different than the life that you have already created, are going to align you with where God would have you to be, with your higher self, with your greater life that you must live. But it requires fear. It requires overcoming fear. Mm-hmm. And it requires looking at yourself to say, what do I really believe about me, other people, and the world? And how did I get to this place? And does what I believe really align with the word of God and what he has told me in his word, and is confirming in my heart that he wants me to be? For me, I grew up in a poor neighborhood. We didn't go hungry, but we didn't have a lot of domestic violence and alcohol and abuse and those kind of things. And certain things happen that make you question your value. You don't realize it until you start going back and saying, that's when I went in the closet. That's when I started hiding, because hiding was the safest way. And these things that God is calling me to do require me to come out of the bushes. They require me to be in the light so people can criticize and see me and possibly even determined she doesn't know everything that she thinks that she knows, and she's done things in the past that that shows she's not perfect. And you have to clash with that self. You have to say, none of that is true, because I'm who God created me to be.
Yeah.
And it's my job to become that, to live in alignment with that. And in doing that, I've gone through many seasons of rejection in corporate America, in the church, in the community, family, and what have you, that can tear you down. And in overcoming those things, I realize I'm not the only one. And I want to help to restore people back to their courage. I want to help to restore them back into the arms of Jesus, where we get our confidence. And I want to restore them to a vision of self that God created for them, and that sin and their sin and the sin of others has torn down. I want to create a generation of giants who are standing for the Lord and content with who they are and what they're doing to serve him.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, and I try to emphasize this all the time with people, is about loving yourself first, loving who you are, who God created you to be. I always go back to Psalm 139. You know, he created us. He created these masterpieces. He put us together just the way that he wanted us to be, so that we can go forth and fulfill our purpose. But a lot of times, like you said, people come along and they'll plant these seeds, and these seeds of negativity that blossom in us because they are re-emphasized in so many different ways. And it is unfortunate that these negative seeds may be emphasized within the church. But like you said, we have work to do. And I love that you are doing this. You were talking about your own journey. Can you tell what was the transition point for you where you said, okay, this is enough. I got to do this, not only for me, but for other people?
Yes, I'd be happy to. And I want to start by saying it wasn't one transition.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be intimidating to people, women in particular, to think that you have to wake up today and you have to make the pivot that is going to change your life forever. I believe that throughout your life, you have a series of yeses. You get to some decision points and you say a yes. It may seem small or it may seem big, but at that moment, your yes turns you in the direction that you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So when I graduated from high school and went off to college, I had no intentions of ever leaving my hometown. Mm-hmm. But I had a situation that happened that made me feel unsafe. Mm-hmm. And I decided I needed to leave town for my safety and the safety of my family and what have you. So I moved to another city to finish college. That was the first step. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was, but let's just say I have never moved back to my hometown. Mm. So I never had that as a goal in my mind. In fact, I didn't interview for jobs later on that I felt would take me out of North Carolina. But I ended up out of North Carolina through just one decision at a time. When it comes to specifically walking in my calling, I went to engineering school because I needed to make money. I needed a secure, lucrative field of study that would allow me to have a roof over my head. That's how I made that decision. That would seem totally away from being an ordained minister and what have you. But God has a way of using all of it to work to his good when you say yes. Now, when it comes to my specific calling to preach, I think it has been with me since I was a little girl. Mm-hmm. But I never really gave it much credence because I'm a girl, right? Mm-hmm. And there weren't a lot of women role models coming up who were in the pulpit or what have you. So when it started really ringing out in my heart, I fought for a long time to say yes to that. Mm-hmm. And I did it little by little. At the church that I was in, I started doing what the ministry would allow me to do. And over time, I I got more comfortable serving in ministry. And then when my pastor validated that he didn't agree with the theology of women not being able to preach. Even though he said that, I still struggled. So when I started my church in 2012, and I'm just now realizing this now, I started the church in 2012 out of obedience to God, but I still did not go all out. I didn't go 200%. I was very timid in ministry. And when I look back now, I realize that the ministry grew very slowly because of my confidence, because I still had problems with, I'm a girl and I'm in ministry. And people will say, it's the 20th century, it's the 21st century, you need to get over that. But I think that, especially in my age group, there's still a lot of women who struggle with being called to a higher level of leadership in the church. And I think that trickles down into other areas where they're called to be leaders as well. And I believe it's critical just to unlock that, to know that God created you and he has given you something to do. And if that's something that he's given you to do, means that you have to step out into these places that the world is saying are not yours to own, then that's probably an indication that that's where you need to be. So I've been step by step walking more in that. One more, he told me to write books, and he gave me a certain assignment, and I'm not going to tell you how long ago, but it was about at the same time I started the church. And I was like, well, Lord, I don't know you enough to write a book about you like that. But the fact that I was able to have a conversation with him is evidence of knowledge of him or a relationship with him, which is what he wants other people to have. He is not so interested in our getting doctoral degrees, although there's nothing wrong with those degrees. I'm in the process of getting one myself. But you can have a degree and not know the Lord. And my response was, I'm going to go back to school so I can know you better. So I spent years and years studying theology and getting all these degrees. And when I got to the point where I am now, and I think that's why I've kind of slowed down, it kind of discouraged me that all the stuff that I've learned about him and spent all this money learning about him, the most knowledge that I've gotten of him is when I've obeyed and got up at 4:00 in the morning and sat in his presence with my pen and just waited on him. And that's what he wants us to relay to people, the relationship with him that allows us to be who we are, that calls us forth and gives us that confidence and that clarity and commitment in our purpose so that we can move forth and do it. Because when we see it in his presence, we're willing to walk through the fire to be all that he's called us to be. It's like when my sons were small and they were trying to do things and they weren't confident. If me and my husband would encourage them and clap on the sidelines, they would give it that extra effort.
Yeah.
When we get in the presence of God, that's how we are. We know he's cheering us on. We know he's got us covered. And we just go forth and do it. And don't worry about what other people have to say about it. I know that was a lot.
No, it's fine. And I love what you're saying. I was just thinking about some of the things you're saying. And one of the key points I think you shared was that, at first you didn't see a space for yourself to be what God had called you to be. And one of the things that happens if God is saying, I want you to do a certain thing, and people around you or do not open up that space for you, one of the things that God will do is make a space for you. That's why obedience is important, because you don't know what God is trying to birth through someone. And, we have a responsibility of making space for people, no matter, even if we don't understand the call. And we've been talking about this a lot lately, is that God called you to a certain thing. He may not have called me to what he's called you. And so you may not understand the vision that he's given a person. But if God is saying, I want you to open up this space for the person to be what I called them to be, it's very important for us to be obedient to that. And if you refuse to do it, he still will make a space, because his plan will go forward. And I also love that you talk about the 4 a.m. Talks with God. I'm a 4 a.m. person myself. I mean, like, God, you woke me up again. And I remember one day I complained. I said, I'm so tired of waking up at 4:00 in the morning. And I didn't wake up that morning at 4 o'clock as usual. And my day went horrible. And I was like, I'm not doing this again. I will stop complaining.
That's right.
I'll just go to bed earlier.
Just
But
go ahead and do it.
those times are so important because that is when God is giving you direction and
Yes.
he's revealing himself to you. And like you said, he's building your confidence. He's telling you what you are capable of doing, what he has made you for. But if you never sit down and have that quiet time with him, and it doesn't have to be 4 a.m. in the morning, and it doesn't have to be at a specific place. Everybody is different where God reaches them, but it is important to just have it because that is pivotal to your relationship with God and how you're moving forward with life.
Yes.
And now these books, now you have books, but you also have other things that you do as far as coaching to help people realize these things. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I will. And I can use that whole process as an example of getting that clarity and walking through the process. So I've been a pastor since 2012, and I'm used to just really ministering to people. And so walking into the coaching space is different because it's a business, right? And I was like, this doesn't feel right, God. You want me to build a business on this? And it took a long time for me to say, okay, I see where the line is. I see where what is in ministry. It's all ministry, but some of it is the way I put it is this is paid ministry and this is service ministry, right? And so in doing that, I was like, but I help people to find their purpose and to fulfill their calling day in and day out. And I began to just kind of draw up some programs, and God hooked me up with some Christian females who were in business who had already gone through this struggle. I think we all go through the struggle, and as women, we don't really validate our offer and our cost of what we charge for things. We want to give it all away for free. So I have two programs, and they're both really part of the same thing. One of them is, the name of it is called Hire, and it helps women, and men are also welcome to go through a process of validating their call, affirming their call, learning how to lead in their call and live in their call. And it's I'm going to do a 21-day program in September where we're going to just go through. It's going to be all on Zoom and just help some people to get in their position what God has called them to do, and really be able to say, I might not be able to articulate it and it sound cute and it be able to sell, but I know what I'm called to do, and I'm just going to go do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it over and over again. Because sometimes it's a consistency of just doing it and not really worrying about what the result is. And then I'm launching a book also, and the name of the book is Ignite Your Purpose. So I'm developing a coaching program to go along with that. And the name of the coaching program is not cute, it's just purpose. And it goes through, of course, the first module is on how to live in the presence of God, and how to use that to really confirm who you are. And that's, really, I probably could just deal with that. How to hear from God, live in his presence, understanding that prayer doesn't require a doctoral degree, that reading the Bible is just read it and read it and read it every day, and it'll get easier for you to do. So that's where I am right now. And I do coach individuals as needed. I'm trying to do more group coaching.
Okay. And I think one of the key things that you said in this is consistency, because we don't think things are perfect or everything is together. We want to continue to wait. But if that calling is heavy on you, you can't wait. It's going to eat you up until you start doing what God has called you to do. And so it may be something small, but as you go along with the consistency aspect of it, you will see how you develop. Where your mind was when you first started, just a few weeks in, you will see a difference where how you have transitioned in the process. But consistency is so key. Just get started today and
That's right.
move forward. But a lot of people, they're so focused on, it's not perfect. I'm not where I want to be. But you have to
Yes,
let those things go. God didn't ask you to be perfect. He didn't ask you whether you are where you want it to be. You are
that's
where he
right.
wants you to be right now. And he wants you to start doing what he has asked you to do.
And don't evaluate the result from the perspective of failure.
Yeah.
Evaluate the result from the perspective of how can I learn and be more effective the next time.
Yeah, it's about growth.
Yeah,
We don't get it all in one setting. Like you said, some people have these moments of these pivot moments where it's like instantaneous, where God is like, I want you to do this. And people are like, okay, Lord, I'm going to do it. But even in that, you will see that it is a process. I've learned that for myself. It's a process. God called me to do ministry work. And
uh-huh.
when he initially called me, I was hesitant to, because I was
Right.
thinking about all the things that I needed to be able to move forward. But when I
Yeah,
clearly understood his voice and it was reemphasized to me, I did make that just concrete decision. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. But I didn't feel like I had a plan. And it has taken years for me to really start seeing things the way I think God is really wanting me to see them now. And
yeah,
it's actually much bigger than I initially imagined. But it was a process. Some people have that, you have that moment, God calls you, be like, okay, it's time for you to do this. But also, like you said, there are times where you're slowly going to the transition and you realize that God is asking you to do certain things. It doesn't make a difference how it's calling you or how you're getting to that point. The most important part is that you are obedient and you let go and allow him to work through you.
that's right. And you probably would agree with this. You wouldn't be in a place to receive the greater vision that he's showing you today if you hadn't said yes back in the day to
Oh,
what you
yeah,
were seeing at that moment. You couldn't have handled it back then. But
absolutely.
he's been preparing you, and everything that you go through, whether you see it as good or bad, has equipped you and given you the confidence, the wisdom, the knowledge, the connections to continue and to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to trust him with the process and not worry about what you're lacking. And there's nothing wrong with preparation. If you say, I'm going to be a writer, so I'm going to go to school and learn how to be a better writer, there's nothing wrong with that. But if he's calling you to blog right now, go to school and blog. Get,
Exactly.
get better as you go along.
Grow in the process.
Grow in the process.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Now you have to tell people how they can connect with you on social media, how they can find your books.
Very good. My website is www.michellewfuqua.com. Very simple. And Instagram and Facebook, it's at Michelle W. Fuqua. The only one that's different is YouTube. It's MW Fuqua. You
Mm-hmm.
can follow me on all of those. I am on Amazon, as I'm on there twice, Michelle Fuqua and Michelle W. Fuqua, but all of those should link to my author page if you want to follow me there as well. I
Okay.
would appreciate the support.
All right. Now you have to tell people the final word out of all the things that we talked about today. What is the one thing that you want people to take with them through life?
I want them to know that you got it in you. Everything that you need, you already have. And in this visual world that we're living in, where you can go on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, and you can see so many people doing great and wonderful things that might intimidate you right where you are. I want you to know today, do not allow other people's success or failures to dictate how you move forward in your life. I heard a lady say on Instagram that she was successful because God knew that he could trust her with the work.
Mm.
Now, there is nothing wrong with that comment, but I think that it can lead some people astray and discourage people. What's more important is that God knows you
Yeah.
and he is in pursuit of you. He has a you that he envisions whenever he thinks of you, and that's all the time. And that's who he sees. He doesn't see the facts and the failures and the fears of your life. He wants to overwhelm you with his presence and with his purpose for you. Don't worry about it. Just walk in who he's called you to be and have confidence in it. And don't let anyone steal from you who you are and what he created you to be.
All right, people, you heard it from Michelle Fuqua. She has said, you know, we talked about how God is opening space up for you to be what he has called you to be. He's giving you the confidence as you start to be obedient in him and go forward. You know, there is nothing that you cannot do if you are powered by God. So make sure you connect with her, you know, find her books, connect with her on social media. She has given some great words, some great nuggets for us to live by. Thank you, Michelle, for being a part of this interview today. I truly appreciate it. Like I said, a lot of great nuggets for the people. And people, until next time, God bless.
Love.